Welcome to Hunter Fuel, a supernatural rewatch podcast for adults who enjoy their show with a chaser. I'm Liz.
And I'm Lynn.
Thanks so much for joining us for season 1, episode 6, Skin. We model responsible drunkenness here. All participants are over 21. No one is pregnant. No one will be driving, handling weapons, or operating heavy machinery. If you're playing along with us, those are the rules. If you decide not to follow them and you do something stupid, don't blame us. Lynn, what are you drinking this evening?
I went for some cranberry vodka.
Always a nice I assume that's the one from the distillery near me?
Yes, it is.
Their stuff is really delicious.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, it is.
I see why you picked it. So the cocktail this week is called a Shapeshifter. It is 3/4 of an ounce of blood orange vodka, 1.5 ounces of coconut rum, and butterfly pea flower extract. Now that is PEA, not PEE. There's no one running around with tiny syringes harvesting butterfly urine for but it is a natural source of blue. So you shake all of that up, pour that into a glass, and what makes this a shapeshifter cocktail, Dave, if you could bring the video up for us, is when it is exposed to a food acid, something like lemon juice, it changes color. So the cocktail shape shifts from a lovely blue color into a lovely purple. So before we before we take a look at our cards, Lynn, you and I had a conversation on Saturday morning. So we've been going through the episodes that we've recorded so far, and we were talking about some of the things that we see that we would like to tweak a little bit. Some of the things that we would maybe want to do differently going forward. Something happened that I thought was really funny, and that is we were just talking about, like, again, we said this on the last podcast that we are not professionals. We are flying this plane while we're building it. And I made the comment, it's like the first time you have sex. That goes really badly. And from behind you, I hear, "Oh my God." And I realize I'm on speaker and your children can hear me.
Now, I was like, it was just my daughter who is 18 years old, and
They are 18. They
yeah,
are. And they know how they got here. Like, we didn't drop a revelation on them. But my favorite part of the conversation was you could hear the wheels turning, and she comes up with, "What do you guys talk about when we are not around?" Like, "Oh, honey, you will never know."
no,
I mean,
quite a bit, my darling, quite a bit.
well, I gotta say, honestly, I suspect we talk about the same things that she talks about with her friends when her parents aren't around. So, but I have to say, well, really, my niece made my morning. She made my morning. That I
I
laughed about that all day.
I did feel bad though that it didn't even occur to me that it's like, because I was just running around the house. It did not
Right,
even occur to me to be like, oh, just to warn you, you're on speaker, because I don't normally wear earbuds. Like, I
right.
just sort of run around with the thing because it's a pain in the butt to always have the phone up next to your ear.
Uh,
So
I get it. I will say, like, you've known me a long time. You know I'm always dangerous.
well, I
I
figured
am
these kids have pretty much they've hung out near us on a Saturday night when we've had a few, so I figured they've heard quite a bit. Then and
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but I usually do try to censor myself a tiny bit around the kids. But that being said, since
that was
they're
funny.
since they're not within earshot. So Wizard Dave, can you bring up our cards for us, please? And okay, I am taking a look at mine, and I have to say, I I don't think I'm gonna get too terribly many. I don't have a whole lot. This might not be too boozy of an episode for us.
Yeah, as I said, I have not rewatched the episode recently. So yeah, I had a huge weekend. So I'm having to go by a lot of memory here. This this one could go either way for me.
Let's find out. So, as always, the first one is on the house.
Yep. Cheers.
So, cheers.
Woo!
Okay, it's good. It's a little sweeter than I prefer. Okay. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, now I'll admit I poured mine a little more than I expected, like that I thought. Now I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not drinking all that in one shot. And I'm really glad I didn't because woo, the
You're
amount
breathing
that
fire.
I drank was already like, okay, I'm awake now.
All right. Well, let's get this show on the road.
Yes.
So, as always, we start with our recap. Um, and this is the standard one that they've been doing since we started. We're only on episode 6. So, Dad's on a hunting trip. He hasn't been home in a few days. Poor Jess on fire in the ceiling.
Yep.
Um, Dad's journal, he wants us to pick up where he left off, saving people, hunting things, the same one we've been seeing so that we can get new fans caught up with where we are.
All right. St. Louis.
So we start out in this really interesting place where, there's this really distressing footage of this woman. She's clearly been abused. She's tied to a chair. Somebody has a very freakish looking knife. Here comes the SWAT team. They're blowing out the lock on the door. They're making entry. Um, if you are watching this on Netflix, you would not be hearing the song that played originally, which is Iron Butterfly Inagata Davida, which I will say a little something more about in just a moment. But so here comes the SWAT team. There's this person who was abusing her. It's lit really well it's very dark, just flashlights.
Ooh, that blood ripple was cool.
There's a lot of blood. Like, he's clearly been abusing her for some time. She's bleeding from multiple places. Like, there's a lot of stuff out on a table that's very bloody. And she's trying to wave the SWAT people towards the her attacker. So here's her attacker trying to get out of the house. They're shouting at him, "Drop the knife, don't move." He turns around and it's Dean?
Mhm.
What? What? And he's got this kind of crazy look in his eye. All right, I'm gonna pause this. So this is a little what's happening here?
Yeah, because it's like, what? Yeah, because
Dean?
I now remember watching that going, this makes no sense whatsoever.
Like, we've only seen 5 episodes so far, but we think we know what Dean is like, so like something very strange is happening here. So we're about to pick up now 1 week earlier. I Two things I did want to mention is one, um so the band again is Iron Butterfly and the song is Inagata Davida. It was supposed to be in the Garden of Eden. But the band was so fucking high, they couldn't say the words when they got to the recording studio, and it came out "Inagada Davida, honey." And so now it's kind of an infamous song, and there's a possibility that no one officially has ever come out and said this from the show, but a lot of fans have noticed that this particular scene bears a really strong resemblance to a movie called Manhunter. Um, which is about police efforts to capture a serial killer. And that song plays over a similar scene with the SWAT team making entry to try to stop a serial killer. So there's a possibility that that's an homage there, and that's why they've used that song. Hitting play. So we have 1 week earlier. I do think this is kind of amusing that they're pulling into a gas station. Gas is 2.65 a gallon. So
Woo!
tell me it's 2005 without telling me it's 2005. So the boys have a plan. They're on their way to somewhere, and Dean is talking about the route. Sam is not really paying attention, and Dean says, "Sam wears women's underwear." And Dean is like, or excuse me, Sam is like, I heard you. I'm busy. I'm ignoring you." Um, saying you still keep in touch with your college buddies because Sam is answering his email. We have a dude here, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
pause it because let's see, let's check our cards. We may have our first. I have a dude.
Mhm.
That's pretty sweet.
I don't think I do. I had a computer issue earlier, and on my first card, I did have a dude. Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm fully aware. Trust me.
Don't.
Nope.
So, all right, so I have one on the board. We're still waiting for your first one.
Yeah. Now,
And
now I need a son of a bitch.
now you All right. So they're talking about um, Sam's relationship with his friends that he left behind and in Stanford. And Dean is kind of busting his chops for lying to his friends and not telling them who he is, what he does. Um, and essentially saying like this, a job like ours, relationships are hard. Like it's best to just kind of cut ties. And Sam is like, no, that's ridiculous. Um, and he gets an email from his friend Rebecca, and Dean's first words are, "Is she hot?" Because that's all Dean cares. But it turns out, so Becca's brother Zach has been accused of murder. Um, Sam is insisting this can't be right. Zach is no killer. And we've got this great line from Dean, maybe you don't know Zach as well as you think you do. Um, and regardless, this is a human crime. This is not monster activity. This is not our gig. This has nothing to do with this. And Sam is like, no, these are my friends. We're going. So they have a little bit of a disagreement. And Dean pulls out of the parking lot as fast as the Impala will go, squealing tires right under a sign that reads, "Drive safe, America." So here we have, and now I have a question here. So they're at Becca's house. She's got a big hug for Sam, and all of a sudden we've got Dean like, "Hey, Dean, older brother, I'm pausing this. Is this a checkout? Is he checking her out, or
That's a great. I think if he's not checking her out now, he will be in 5 minutes.
yeah, she's it's
So
Dean and a hot chick. Yeah, she has a vagina. Dean will hit on her. And there's a certain segment of the fan base that is not convinced the vagina is even a deal breaker. But so let's call this either it's a checkout now or it will be very soon. So let's check our cards. I am not seeing it on mine. It's
I was saying, but there is definitely like a hello that like I will get noticed here. Nope, I do not have one.
neither one of us gets it on our bingo cards. Okay, and that so disappointment if you're playing along with us, hopefully you had better luck than we did. So hitting play. So she's inviting them into this freaking mansion. That it took, oh, it's my parents. They live in France for half a year. They're coming home. So excuse me, they're walking around the house. And so she's telling them what's happened with her brother. And she's insisting that he was with her at the time of the murder. And so it's just not possible that he could have killed his girlfriend. Um, she's saying the girlfriend Emily, she was tied to a chair, she was beaten really badly. He called 911. The police show up, but he's their primary suspect. So he's in a lot of trouble. The cops have a lot of evidence that he's the one who committed this crime. And she's like, I'm the only one saying he's with me, and I can't prove it. She also mentioned she's got that there is a security video where the police say that they have him on camera entering the girlfriend's house, but then not leaving. So here's the part where
Oh.
Sam says Dean's a cop, and Dean's like detective, actually. So he's like, yeah, yeah, Bisbee, Arizona, wherever Bisbee,
Dude.
Arizona is. I know it's in Arizona, but like clearly it's not Las Vegas, it's not Reno. It's clearly a tiny place he's hoping she won't check. Um, and so they're promising, well, at least Sam is promising, and Dean is like, oh, for the love of Christ. Sam is promising they're gonna help. So they want to go see the crime scene. Um, Dean is again busting Sam's chops for not being honest with his friends. He's like, dude, this is not our kind of problem. And Sam is saying somebody in two places at once? Like we've looked into less. So Dean is still on board, very reluctantly, clearly, but the three of them go over to Zach's apartment. They show up, um, and they're getting into the house. And as soon as they get in the door, we've got this photo of Zach and we presume his girlfriend Emily. And man, there is blood everywhere. Like this is terrible. There's blood spattered all over the walls, all over the tables. There's blood on the door jamb. Becca is obviously distressed. There's blood on the picture frames. Like this was a gratuitously violent crime.
Yeah,
With
would we
no
arguably say it's a gratuitous blood splatter?
So that's a great question. For me, and if we need Wizard Dave to be a tiebreaker, that's fine. For me, the gratuitous blood spatter is the
Okay, no, I can buy that one.
okay.
I'll definitely go with you on that one.
Okay, so at this point, we have not seen what I consider to be a gratuitous blood spatter. But she's saying that someone had broken into the home previous plea to the murder, and but just some clothes were taken, nothing of any value, just some clothes. This whole time this scene is going on, we can hear a dog just freaking out in the background. The dog is barking, he's howling. She's telling Dean he used to be the sweetest dog. But coincidentally, right around the time of the murder, the dog got really distressed and just started barking and growling at everything. So there's something going on with the dog. Um, I do want to mention really quickly here. This episode is directed by John Scheiban, and we're going to see his name pop up quite a bit. His episodes always tend to be really good. So if we see his name on an episode, we know we have a good chance of it being an especially good episode. The other thing, I don't know if you recognize this name, but this is directed by Robert Duncan McNeil. I don't know if you know who that name, but that is Tom Paris on Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
So, and he's a big director. He's directed a lot of episodes, so it's kind of different shows. So it's kind of fun to get him here. We do have this really fun so Rebecca is saying like, I stole the security video. I didn't want to say so in front of a cop, and Dean is like, oh, you're like, you still haven't said anything in front of a cop. We also,
Oh,
I love this shot of the camera like on the photo of Zach on the fridge, and then we cut to Zach sitting on a bench. Like, isn't he supposed to be in jail? So he's sitting on a bench. He's watching this gentleman say goodbye to his girlfriend. She's kind of blowing a kiss goodbye. Um, and then we've got this really crazy shot of Zach with this evil look on his face. We get that nictitating membrane. I'm going to pause this quickly. We get, that weird, like sideways third eyelid and this really crazy eye shine.
yeah.
So right away, we as the audience know, okay, this guy is not human. There is something weird happening here.
Yep, and definitely pay attention to that eye change because that that definitely plays into this episode quite a bit.
It does. You're absolutely right. And this is something I think fun that this episode does is so now at this point, the audience knows, like you and I know watching this, oh, this dude is not human. This is absolutely the Winchesters swim lane. But
Yep.
the Winchesters don't know it yet. So we're ahead of them slightly. I'm hitting play, and they are watching the security video that Becca stole from her attorney. And sure enough, it's 10:30. It's just after 10. They can see Zach entering the apartment. The police had told her his girlfriend Emily was killed about 10:30. Her apartment home uh, domicile. So they go in, and Sam right away sees something, and he sends Becky to go get them some beer and, oh, maybe some sandwiches. She says, "What do you think this is? Hooters?" And Dean says, "Oh, I wish." so, so Sam calls
Uh,
Dean over, and there it is. There is the eye shine on the camera. So they're calling this a camera flare. Um, Here's another question I have for you. Lynn, did you recognize this actress, the actress who plays Rebecca?
oh, as soon as you say that, I know I should.
But
Um,
but did you? Like when you were watching the episode for the first time, did you recognize her? I'm going to pause this. Okay, so uh according to IMDb, because I did not watch this particular show, she was on General Hospital for several seasons. And I know that you watched General Hospital, but I also know you watched General Hospital back in the day.
yeah, I was
So
gonna say it's been probably I want to say 20 years since I've watched it
yeah.
consistently.
So even if you saw her, you might not have retained the memory of it, because
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it would have been, this episode aired 20 years ago. So, anyway, I was curious if you recognized her. I wasn't sure when
I'd
she
be
was
interested.
on.
I'd have to. Now I'm gonna have to research it because I'll be interested to find out like which character she played as to like should I have recognized like
Mm,
if she was like child if she was like a child in it, then it's like holy crap, that's who that was.
right, right.
Because I mean,
Well,
obviously, I mean, there's a lot of children in daytime, but to see
are
them,
there?
oh yes,
I Okay. I will take
yes,
your word for it.
yeah, there actually are a fair number, but
Okay.
then you see them 30 years later, it's like, holy shit,
All right.
that
That's
is.
so. Well, if only we had tiny computers we carried around in our pockets that would give us some ability to look things up. But
Well, I could, but then I was say I would look a little distracted if I actually.
very true, very true. Okay, so okay, hitting play. I'm pushing the button and nothing is happening. Hitting play, there it goes. So here comes Alex. Now this actor, this is try that again. Peter Shinkoda. I've only had one. Crikey. He was on Daredevil, Falling Skies, and The Man in the High Castle. So I did recognize him. I had to check to see where I recognized him from. But now he starts to see there's blood again. Here's his poor girlfriend tied to a chair, just like we saw in the cold open. And she says, "Please don't hurt me anymore." Um, so he's really distressed. He hears something in the house. And this whole time, I'm like, call 911, call 911. Take your phone out of your pocket, call 911. But of course, he doesn't do that because that would be the smart thing to do. So he leaves his girlfriend tied to a chair, bloody. He starts walking around the house. Um, he's looking for the source of whatever noise he heard. And behind him comes him carrying a baseball bat. We see the nictitating membrane again. We've got the eye shine, and he gets clacked in the head with a bat. So it is a bad day for poor Alex. Here come the boys in the Impala. Um, they are back at Zach's place because Sam is saying that they're the police. Oh, I'm going to pause this. But Sam is saying he wants to go back and take another look at the crime scene because the police think they didn't check to see if anybody else was in the house because they're pretty convinced they caught Zach. They caught their killer. And Sam is saying, well, if if the real Zach didn't leave, but Zach is not the killer, then the real killer must have left from another venue, so another avenue. So Sam is looking for that. But meanwhile, they are at the house at 5:30 in the morning, and Dean has a cup of coffee, and Dean drinks from his coffee. So let's check our bingo cards.
Uh, do, do, do. Uh, no, I am batting 1,000.
Well, I got one. So Slancha.
But I'm toasting you. Screw it. Nope. I am a grown ass adult. If I want to drink, I'm taking one.
I'm gonna goddamn drink. Okay, let me. All right, so we've got Dean drinks. Okay, hitting play, checking me notes, and Sam is checking in the dumpster. That sounds like a fun job. Dean is like, I don't know why we're here at 5:30 in the morning. Um, and Sam spots a bloody handprint on a telephone pole where it's sort of a handprinty smear or a smear hand. And he's like, dude, blood, I'm right and you're not. Nanner, nanner. And as they're looking at the blood, an ambulance comes tearing by. And they're like, oh, this can't be good. So the brothers follow the ambulance, and we have another crime scene. They show up, they're talking to a lady who appears to have been jogging by when she saw the crime scene. She stops and they ask her what's happening. She says, oh, the guy who lived here beat up his girlfriend. And we see the police putting Alex into a police car. And the neighbor is like, he always seemed like the nicest guy. Like, this doesn't seem like him. Sam is looking at the cleanest wheelie bins I have ever seen. And like clearly they purchased a couple of shiny new wheelie bins for this episode. Didn't have time to distress them. Dean says this is definitely our kind of problem. Like, I'm not going to admit you've been saying it all along and I didn't believe you, but this is definitely our kind of problem. It seems like that we've got a second doppelganger on our hands. And so they start questioning, could this be a shapeshifter? Oh, and we've got the word lore. So I'm pausing. Do
And
either of us
also,
have
now
lore?
maybe I had Laura my last one. Dang it. And I had
Okay.
Dean drank. Damn it.
Either. So maybe because at least now they have a reason to be there. So okay, neither one of us had lore, which is a tragedy. So hopefully we'll get the next one. Hitting play, and so they're talking about shapeshifters, and the good news about shapeshifters is they know how to kill them. So the bad news is we've got a couple of murders very geographically very close together. Um, and they're trying to figure out like the trail just disappears. Like, can shapeshifters fly? And Dean says, well, there's another option here. If they can't go up, maybe they went the other way. So he realizes down is an option, and right at their feet is a manhole cover with steam coming out of it. This is an incredible set from Jerry Wanick. Like, you believe this is a sewer. Um,
Mhm.
it's everything looks wet and gross. It's dark. Director of photography Serge Laudouceur lit this really beautifully with all these shadows or sort of didn't light it beautifully. They've got these grates, and now Dean has found something.
Sure.
Oh God, this is so gross. Oh my God, I am not gonna look at this. This is so gross. Like, oh. So he realizes, um,
That
oh,
it kind of sheds
oh.
its skin.
But like,
It,
okay, I've had lizards as pets in my life. They shed, and it's just sort of a dry husk, and it's fine. That is gougy, man. Like that
yeah.
is super gross. So again, the good news is they know how to kill it. So Dean is loading his gun with silver bullets. Silver apparently kills shapeshifters. Sam, meanwhile, gets a call from Rebecca, who has discovered they were lying. And so not only is Dean not a detective, but now they've compromised the crime scene, which potentially has damaged Zach's case. So she is justifiably pissed. Um, Dean apparently hears enough from Sam's side of the conversation to be able to say, like, look, dude, this is how it goes when you lie to people. Like, sooner or later, they're gonna find out. He's like, you lie to your friends because if they knew the real you, they'd be freaked. It'd be easier if you just kind of cut ties and didn't have anybody. Like Dean doesn't have anybody other than Sam and his dad, who they can't find. But the job, it ain't without his perks. And he hands a handgun. We get this cute shot of Sam's tuchus as he puts the gun in his belt, and they are back in the sewers. Super gross.
I was saying, definitely not a perk.
No, the sewers are not a perk. Getting to shoot things, perk. Yeah. Where you have to go in order to shoot it, not a perk.
No.
So once again, I think this is a gorgeous shot here.
Yes,
that sort of overhead shot where we see the two boys from above.
Mm-hmm.
Dean is in the lead here, coming down this gross sewer tunnel. Just really kind of appreciate how sort of dark and shadowy the look of the show was. Yep, oh God, and here's more.
And now we find where he has
had
his skin once again, and where
again is. And now they're calling it and
and we found him.
I'm gonna pause this. So I love this little bit here where Dean is like, oh, I think we're getting close, and Sam's like, why? And Dean is like, because there's a puke-inducing pile right next to your face, and Sam does that like, what? And then we just saw, and it happened really quickly, but as you said, the shapeshifter was behind Dean. He turns, the shifter hits Dean, and it like not only does the shifter hit Dean in the head, it drives Dean to the side and he cracks his head on this big sewer pipe here. So Dean has now taken two like good solid hits to the head. The shifter runs off. He looks back. We've got a son of a bitch, which will stop in a second.
We're pausing.
We're pausing. We've got a son of a bitch, but also importantly, Dean has injured his shoulder, which we're going to come back to after this break. Let me see.
So I am a son of a bitch. Woo! And then I also wait a minute. Never mind. I have Sam gets conked in the head, but it was Dean who got conked in the head.
Yeah, we don't have a Sam conked in the head yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So hitting play. So Dean has hurt his shoulder. We've got Alex, the shifter looking like Alex, popping up out of the sewer grate. Sam is after him. He realizes, oh shit, I'm on a crowded street. Maybe I shouldn't be running around with a handgun. Excuse me.
Poor Dean.
Dean pulls himself out. It's a little like, okay, so his shoulder's bad, but then he's also like he doesn't, it's not like he can't use it at all. No. But he's not in great shape. So they split up to chase the shifter. Couple of ladies walking along, giggling. It's a pretty crowded street, and Sam is still kind of trying to track down the shifter. Now we've got Dean. Dean is being less stealthy with his pistol, and people are like, oh crap, this is a man with a gun, and they're blocking the way. Sam is on the corner. Now here comes Dean, and they're saying no, the guy got away, they can't find him. like, okay, let's go back to the car and regroup. They start crossing the street. A car comes around the corner. The headlights hit Dean, and we see that eye shine. So Dean is not Dean. And like, okay, what has happened to the real Dean? The boys walk up to the car. Dean asks Sam for the keys. And you can see that Sam is already suspicious and he's testing Dean. He's asking about, hey, didn't we hunt a shapeshifter once in San Antonio? And Dean's like, oh, no, dude, it was Austin and it wasn't a shapeshifter. So he's like, oh, okay. Tosses in the car keys. Dean catches them with his left hand. Dean, or not Dean. He opens up the trunk, lifts up the false bottom, and there's the grenade launcher. There's all kinds of weaponry. And we can see that this shifter is like, sweet. I just hit the mother load. But here comes Sam. He's got a gun. He's like, no, where is my brother? It's like, you're about to shoot him. No, no. You caught your keys with the left hand. Your shoulder was jacked up. You are not my brother. Where is my brother? And I just think that this is really a cool moment where like the two of them know each other so well. It's like that it takes the tiniest little bit for Sam to realize this is not Dean. But not Dean. I'm going to pause this quickly. Not Dean conks Sam in the head.
Yeah.
And Sam gets knocked out. So we have two here. We have a Sam gets conked in the head, and we have one of the boys gets knocked out. I have someone gets knocked out. Let me see.
I have someone gets knocked out, and I have Sam gets conked in the head.
I have two as well. Whew, this is going to be a little bit bigger.
And a little extra large.
Prost.
Toast.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Oh, that's really good. No,
Again,
if I can actually okay, now hold on. Before I forget to not to
it's not
knock them out.
it's not bad, it's just sweet.
See, to me, sweet translates to bad.
It's whew, okay. Uh okay.
You know me. I don't
Wait,
like
wait, wait,
wait.
wait. Sam is tied up. Sam, we've got 3 here. Crap.
Um da, 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 da.
Do not have tied up. Ooh.
I don't know why I'm looking for an excuse to another shot. I need another shot. Like I need a hole in the head, but hell. Um
So yeah, we've got not that I have seen, but that doesn't mean it's not coming.
so nope.
Okay. So now Sam is tied up here.
Okay.
And I know that this says something probably pretty wrong about me, but I don't I don't mind this look with him with that rope around his neck. I probably shouldn't look into that. I shouldn't examine that too closely.
Oh, darling.
But I'm gonna hit play here. So Sam is regaining consciousness. He's tied up, and that view does not suck. And we see Dean. Well,
or
it's
who we
not
think is
Dean.
Dean. Or who
We
we're
see
supposed
not Dean.
Oh.
Tug, and he just clocks Sam right in the face. And so what's interesting about this scene here, I think, is A, Sam is 100% focused on his brother. Where's the real Dean? And not Dean is saying, I wouldn't worry about him. I'd worry about you. So he's not telling Sam what's going on. The other thing is interesting to me is that we realize that there's kind of a psychic connection between a shapeshifter and whomever they have turned into. And we can see him kind of downloading information. But so it doesn't happen all at once. That it comes in kind of fits and spurts. And he starts saying, like, man, your family is fucked up. Like, I thought my family was jacked. Your family is messed up. And he starts telling him stuff that Dean doesn't say. Like, you don't think that Dean had dreams of his own, that he wanted to go to school? But no, he stayed behind with Dad while you went off to school. He's jealous. Um, and that Sam got to have friends. He got to have a life that Dean didn't have. And we've got this repetition of me. I know I'm a freak, and sooner or later, everybody's going to leave me. Um, so it's this really kind of sad window into Dean's life that he's kind of so closed off. He doesn't talk about these things. But this shifter who has access to Dean's thoughts is kind of shining a light on it and saying to Sam, everybody leaves me. Like, even Dad, I did everything that he wanted, and Dad still abandoned me. He starts saying, I'm going to pause this. He starts saying, Dean would bang Brecca if he could. Like, well, no shit, it's Dean. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a revelation to anybody. Like anybody knows that. And again, we've got a repetition of that line where he says, this life, not without its perks. But for the shifter, the perk is looking like Dean.
Yep.
So here comes, I'm going to admit, this scene bothers me a little bit. This one, I'm hitting play. This one coming up, so we've got Rebecca coming down the stairs, not a single light on in the house. So apparently there's a power outage wherever she lives. And she opens the door. She sees what she believes to be Dean on the porch. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to apologize. We lied. Can I come in and explain myself? And I think this is a great performance from Jensen here, where like he looks so disingenuous. So this is the question: is she going to let him in? But we realize that Dean is alive and tied up just behind Sam. He does not, however, have a rope around his neck, but he is tied up, and he's making this joke about, hey, Shifter picked the handsome one. um, this scene bothers me so much. I'm going to pause this. So this reminds me a lot of the scene in Star Wars Attack of the Clones between Padme and Anakin, where it's like, no, no, we can't possibly be together, but I'm going to wear a leather bustier and pose in front of this romantic fire. And here we've got like, no, I'm mad at you. You lied to me. You compromised my brother's case, but let's sit in this romantic romantic room with all the lights off in front of a fire. Like, okay, come on. Like, this annoys me a little bit. But the content of the scene itself, again, I think that Jensen does a really good gives us a really good performance here. He starts telling Rebecca that it's a shapeshifter. Of course, she doesn't believe, because who would? That's crazy talk. But we start to again get this little window now from the shapeshifter's perspective, where he seems to think that all he needs are Dean's looks. Like, that's the only thing that he's missing, is to look like Dean. And he starts saying like maybe this thing was born different, and it was treated really badly and it was hated, and so it learned to become someone else. And she's rolling her eyes. She's like, this is ridiculous. Um, cut back to the boys tied up in the sewers. Apparently, the edge of that girder is super sharp because Dean is able to saw through his really big, thick ropes on the edge. He makes this joke about Vulcan mind meld, which again, Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager was the director. So it's kind of a fun little nod. He unties Sam. They're talking about the psychic connection between. They're saying the shifter is probably at Rebecca's. We've got to get over there. Um, so they call the police, and Dean is like, "Hey, you're about to put an APB out on me. Like this is a problem." And Sam's like, "Sorry," calling 911. Cut back to the shifter with Rebecca. He starts saying like, this he's all alone, he's got no one, nobody loves him, he's like me, and so the shifter sees this connection between himself and Dean, and he immediately.
I just notice her eyes though, because her
Sorry.
no, no, she is not loving the connection he is trying to build in this moment here.
No, no. And he leans in, he whispers something in her ear, and she just is whatever he's suggested to her, she is disgusted. And she's like, "No, you get out." He immediately turns. I love this little shot here where he turns and it's like a shark scenting blood. Like Jensen is so good here. Like he just explodes into violence, and he's shouting at her. He's tying her up with the phone cord. For those of you who are younger, phones used to have cords. They used to be attached to the wall. He's been torturing her. So I'm going to pause this because torture is one of our bingo card
And I have a
squares.
torture.
I have a torture as well. Yeah.
I feel really bad for cheering for that. I'm like
Him is turning me into a terrible person. Mm,
sick. I'm officially
see.
sick.
Cheers.
Holy crap, we're losing our fucking minds.
Oh god. So, okay, I don't know what's going on with this thing around her head. I don't know if it's supposed to be something that like holds her head back, but it looks weird. It looks like she could just kind of slip out of that pretty easily. I don't get what's going on with that. But we got this close up of like as soon as they shifted back to the shifter torturing Rebecca, he dropped this like massive chain down onto the table. It was all bloody. So like he's been abusing her for a long time. Like there's a lot of blood. She's in terrible shape, and um he's not he's not like it's brutal. This is a brutal attack.
And I mean,
Um,
I just have to say the
yeah,
way they shot the lighting in this scene is amazing. Like there's I wish I could describe it better, but just the way just the shadow in her face and all that, it is shot, I hate to say beautifully because there's nothing beautiful about this, but it's just cinematography wise, it's amazing.
yeah, the content is distressing,
Yes.
but the way that it's shot, I mean, and again, this is the director of photography, the cinematographer was Serge Ladouceur, and the guy is a genius. It's really a gorgeous show. And at the time this came out, there was nothing else on the WB that looked like this. That this was really unique in that network's lineup. at the time. And like, okay, again, the content is not okay, but they do such a good job of just with these tiny little quick cuts of really conveying how incredibly gratuitously violent this attack is. Okay, so I'm hitting play. Excuse me.
One thing I will say that I do like,
Hmm.
and I use the word like creatively, is that
Torture, torture.
we don't see it.
You're not wrong, and I think you know what? I'm going to hit pause again quickly. Um, it's something again like when Not Dean whispers in her ear. The fact that we don't hear it, and to exactly to your point, we don't see the torture. Your imagination is going to fill in so much worse than anything they would that standards and practices would ever let them show on the air. So I think like in terms of storytelling, I think you're absolutely right that it's a great choice to not show it, because you are going to come up with something far more horrible
Like,
than
but
than
like
what they could
also
show.
like for because I know we've talked about this in the past.
Mhm.
For people like me who struggle with the gore,
Mhm.
that that tells plenty. Like I
This
don't
is enough.
need, yeah, I don't need to see him beating the crap out of her to know that he did that. Like, okay,
With a
I
chain. Yeah.
fully get the point. We can stop at that. Like, okay, put point made. Now let's carry on with the rest of the storyline.
Right. Yeah,
So
well said.
brilliantly done.
I
Brilliantly
agree.
done.
I completely agree. Okay, hitting play.
Yep.
And now here he comes with the knife. He's going to kill her. We hear a gunshot. She screams. And so now we've caught up with where we started. And so we realized that in the cold open, that was not Dean, that was the shifter. He runs through the house. And so here, instead of Inagada da Vida, we have filter, hey man, nice shot, which if you're watching this on Netflix, you would not be hearing. But it's one of my favorite music cues of this first season. It's a great song. Um, and it really sets the tone for this. So we've got not Dean. He turns around, he throws the knife, he kills one of the SWAT team members, he kicks that guy, jumps off of a second floor balcony, rolls and runs. They're shooting him. This is so great. This is really well done with him running and the puffs of dirt as he's getting away. We've got a rat here in the
Oh,
sewers because, of
and
course,
he's hit.
well, here's okay.
So
We're going
then,
to have to talk about this. Not Dean strips his shirt off. He
yeah,
collapses to his knees, and it goes very quickly from, oh crap, he's shirtless, to, oh God, this is horrible. Like we can see his bones are breaking and reordering. His teeth
yeah,
start
like
to
he,
fall out. His fingernails are tearing off. He's tearing hunks of skin off. He tears his ear off and oh God, that's gross. Throws it on the
yeah. So
ground.
now,
We
like
see the
he's
ear
that
melting.
they sort of clearly show him shredding his skin.
He's
And for the first time we see the shapeshifter like actually shredding that out, that skin of his. and
I'm
and
pausing
now
this.
and now we are showing the news in progress.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely like this is so first off, this in a way happened in response to fan requests because remember they were advertising this show at the time as, hot guys, hot show, scary, just got sexy. And here we are, episode 6, and we ain't seen no fucking shirtless guys. And the fans were like, hey, like you've been promising us sexy, where is the sexy? And one of the mantras of the show was, let's give them what they want in a way they don't expect. I can see you want to say something. I'm going to stop talking in just a second. Um, that so this was them going like, oh, you want to see one of the boys shirtless? Okay, here you go. He's shirtless, and it's gonna be awful. Go ahead.
See, this is where I get frustrated with most of, I don't want to say female, like female kind, because it's also just people in general that, and I know a few of our viewers might get a little cranky with me, but yeah, people can be equally as sexy fully clothed. Like, to me, Dean is, and Sam, believe me, I think they both are very sexy individuals, just in the way their facial expressions, the way their mannerisms, the way they speak, the way they move. To me, everything about them exudes sexiness. And it has
Mhm.
zero to do with them needing to take off their damn shirt.
I don't disagree with you at all, and so one thing is, and I think I even said this before on this podcast, is that again, as a person attracted to men, I will happily look at either one of them shirtless as often as they are comfortable being so. That being said, like there's a lot of shows and movies that lean really heavily into into that like partial nudity. Twilight, and
Mm.
it just ends up making them campy. They just become campy. And this was kind of too good of a show to lean into the camp. Um
I mean,
the
don't
other
get me wrong. If it's genuine to the storyline,
If it's not
that
gratuitous,
that's one thing. But if
bring it.
it's just, oh, let me, it's like, oh, for the love of God, put it freaking back on. You're just as hot. I mean, you know this about me. I
Oh,
think
a
a
man in a
guy in a
suit.
fully dressed suit is amazingly hot.
I know you do like a guy in a suit. I
Yeah.
like a guy who grunges up kinda well,
I mean,
which,
don't get me wrong,
there's
a guy in a
we're both gonna
uniform.
get what we want in this show.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
also a guy in a uniform
we're
is
also gonna get that.
is is amazing. So I mean, like like there's a, my point is there's a lot of ways to exude sexiness without showing
Yes.
a guy half naked.
You're not wrong, you're not wrong. I'm happy to see them half naked, but you're not wrong. The other thing that your comment makes me think of is, and it's something that, eh, hang with me a second. I'm making a little bit of a weird tangent, but like when you see stuff that's a couple hundred years old and they're talking about like, oh, I saw her ankle, and you real like, what are you making a big deal about an ankle for? And I have to say, honestly, this show made me understand that better because like Jared has done more, like he's done some men's fitness photo shoots in like where he's shirtless or he's in, just in gym shorts or something like that. Jensen in particular very rarely does photo shoots where he's shirtless. Like it is there are some, but not many. And in this show in particular, you very rarely see the boys even in a single layer. Like just seeing them
Yeah.
in a t-shirt is odd. Like they're typically in like 3 and 4 layers.
Yeah.
So it made me appreciate like they'll strip down to a t-shirt and it's like, is it getting a little warm in here?
No.
A man
What
in a t-shirt. Like
what I love about this, and let me rephrase. Are you done? Because I know I have a nasty
yeah,
habit of
yeah. Yeah, and we should probably move on because I could talk about how hot these guys are for quite a long time. But go ahead, make your comment.
is I love the facial expressions. Like
Oh
to me,
boy.
their eyes say so much. Like
They're so
I
talented.
love, and it's happening a lot in this episode.
Yeah.
Like especially I'm watching the facial expressions in this episode, and like just the way that the camera is moving with their
Mhm,
faces, and
mhm.
it's ooh.
No, they are both incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But for now, I'm hitting play.
Okay.
Uh, Thank you for going on that detour with us. Here we are, and to your point, here we are back with they are showing a an unusually detailed artist's rendering of a sketch of the perpetrator, and it's Dean. They're saying he is armed and considered dangerous. Do not attempt to approach him. And he stepped in a puddle. He's mad. So here they are. They're walking. They're a little concerned about Rebecca. Again, Dean makes the comment like, well, at least he impersonated the handsome one of us. Um, he's like, I'm taking this personally. He's messing up my life. I'm wanted by the police now because of this asshole. He stole our guns. We don't have our weapons. He stole the car. Dean's like, not the car. Like the thought of him driving around in my car, like, is killing me, man. Like, he's not a fan of this guy having his monster mitts all over Dean's baby. Um, they realize that the car is probably back at Rebecca's. And there she is. There's the car. She's safe. But here come the police. And they spot the two of them, and they're for some reason they've sent two cop cars. Sam realizes they don't want me for anything. They can't hold me. I'm pre-law at Stanford. I know these things. So he sends Dean and he's like, don't go after this guy without me. Dean's like, yeah, yeah, of course I won't.
Yeah, bullshit.
So I'm pausing this because they are arresting Sam. Do either one of us have? I have the boys get arrested.
Hold on. Part of me wants it, part of me thinks that I shouldn't. Uh,
Cheers.
uh, yeah, I know. I'm getting to that point, and I'm like, I really should not want another drink, but oh, I know, but I do have to. I do have to get up in the morning.
Work schmirk.
Notice how I'm pouring myself another one.
All right, so Sam is getting arrested. I have another square on the board. You don't, but you're drinking anyway.
No,
Uh,
I'm being good and behaving myself because I'm running
oh.
out.
Okay, so here's the real Dean. He's getting weaponry out of the car because, of course, he's not going to wait for Sam. Um,
And we see that that the
More
shapeshifter
goo,
has changed
more
appearance
goo.
again.
More goo. I
Lots
am gonna pause this really briefly only because this is like a serial killer trophy
Yeah,
altar that
yeah,
we've got here. And I just want to point out a couple things. So there's the chain. We've got a
yep.
bloody chain. We've got a couple of mobile phones. We have what appears to be a necklace. We have a watch. We have some money. So like this guy has been so they know about two murders. Well, really one murder and two assaults. But clearly this guy has been at it for some time.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm hitting play and we're moving on.
A girl.
He spots somebody under a tarp and it's Rebecca. A couple of things bother me about this. Meanwhile, Sam thinks he's talking to Rebecca. Um, and she hands him his second beer. He's
Sam.
telling the shifter he knows how to stop it, and she conks him in the head again. How this dude doesn't have brain damage, I don't know. So we're back to the real Dean in the sewers with the real Rebecca. What bothers me about this is a guy wearing his face tortured her. A, she has essentially no visible injuries. And B, she's not in any way afraid of him. And I just feel like if a guy who looked like the person who had tortured me showed up, I would not be like, "Oh, thank God you're here." So there are a couple things about that bother me. We're back at the house. The shifter has turned back into Dean. Dean's got Sam tied up. He's got a big knife. For some reason, they move venue. Now they're in a game room. I'm going to admit, I'm going to pause this quite a bit. This fight is amazing. This is a great fight. The shifter has that big giant butcher knife from the kitchen and he slams it down into the side of the pool table, which is not very smart because Sam sits up, he kicks the shifter away, sits up, is able to very quickly saw through this knife. He stands up, he hits the shifter, he's trying to hit him with the knife. I'm pausing. The shifter flips him over, and Sam's feet are magically untied. Um, Hitting play, things happen really, there's some great like arm locks here. One of them has the upper hand, then the other one. They're doing some really great like shoulder and arm locks. Um, Shifter gets away. Sam hits him a couple of times. They're trading some punches. Pausing again. The shifter knees Sam in the gut and then kicks him into a set of bookshelves. He goes flying. He hits the bookshelves. He falls down, and we can see that this is Jared and Jensen the entire time, with the exception of Sam getting thrown into these bookshelves and one other scene we're about to see in a second. This is entirely the two of them, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Hitting play, the bookshelves are destroyed. Shifter comes over to Sam. He starts saying, when we were kids, I always kicked your ass. He hits Sam with the pool cue. He tries to hit him a couple more times. He goes way too high. He misses a couple times. And Sam tries to hit him. He catches the punch. They're trading blows. They're both squaring off. And again, a couple more like really great arm and
Oh,
shoulder locks. Sam goes through the coffee table, which is again not Sam. And here we go. This is a choke, which I am not going to pause it here. We're going to check our bingo cards in a minute. That is a legit choke.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
the shifter is on top, and here comes
Um,
Dean to the rescue. He's got a pistol. He lets Sam go. Sam appears to be passed out, and Dean shoots the shifter twice in the chest. He flies back, hits the wall, and he collapses across a couple little ottomans here. We've got this really amazing, this is an iconic shot from the show of Dean crouching down with the pistol, looking at himself dead. I love the way the light hits his face there. Like this is beautiful. And Dean is like, "I want my fucking necklace back, you asshole." And he grabs that back. He's like, "No, no, no. You're dead." Okay, I'm pausing this. We need to talk about this fight.
I don't even know where to
Holy crap.
start.
Well, I didn't know exactly where to start either. However, we have a mutual friend who is a martial artist. And I had hoped he would be able to join us as a guest on this podcast to talk about this fight. But unfortunately, we just couldn't make the schedules align. But he was very sweet and he sent copious notes.
I am so not surprised.
Hopefully, I mean, fortunately, this show, there's a lot of good fight scenes. So hopefully, you will all get to meet our mutual friend. His name is Andy, and I have Andy's fight notes. So, before we do Andy's fight notes, I do want to say that the fight coordinator for this episode was, and for a lot of the show, his name is Lou Bolo, and the studio had called him and said, "Hey, we're going to need you to spend the weekend working with Jared and Jensen, get them ready for this fight," and he's like, "Sure." They're not going to need all weekend. Like they're both athletic people. They've both played sports. Like he's like they're not going to need the whole weekend. It took them 4 hours, just 4 hours to do that entire fight. Again, it's entirely with the exception of Sam going through the coffee table and Sam hitting the bookshelves, it's entirely Jared and Jensen. Um and they got a call from Kung Fu Magazine asking to interview them about this fight. So it's the
Dang, I did not know
damn.
that.
That was in the official companion volume to the season. Um, so this is the first like really great fight scene that we get. So Andy's fight notes. He did say his biggest compliment was there are a lot of legitimate moves and holds and locks. He's like, there's some legit stuff in this fight. His biggest complaint is he felt like they escaped from those locks and holds sort of um, uh, in illogical or sort of too easy ways. Understanding that, in a real fight, if you're defending yourself or someone else, that fight is going to look a lot different than something that you're choreographing for the screen. Like understanding that things need to be done a certain way so that they show up on camera.
Right.
So you're always going to have those things. He gave the fight overall a B minus. Uh, can you tell he's a
Actually,
teacher?
for him, that's pretty high praise.
That is high praise. I will admit, Andy, if you are watching this, thank you so much for doing this for us. There were a couple of places I struggled a little bit to read the writing. Um, how so? s- Uh, quick overview of some of the notes. He felt like some of the moves were good, but there were better options than what we saw on screen. Like if this was a legit fight, were he in that fight, he would have done something a little different. He thought the shifter caught the knife really well. But again, there were better options. He thought the arm and shoulder locks were really good. He would have done something a little bit different, but they looked good. He did say that like right elbow back fist to get out of the lock, he wrote impossible, bold, underlined. So, the way he gets out of that, he he wrote he liked the knee to the gut and then the push kick. He said those were legit, but Sam flying back into the wall, he literally wrote bookshelves, no, capital letters, exclamation point. Uh, There's a point, he said it's actually pretty tough to grab a punch, so he wasn't a big fan of that. He wrote, "Shifter falls over after a right hook." He literally spelled out tisk tisk. And the only other thing that he commented on, and then we have to check our bingo cards because we are up to the choke. The thing that bothered him, he said it was really the thing that bothered him the most about the fight was after the shifter stops choking Sam, then he passes out. And he's like, if you're going to pass out during a fight, you're going to pass out while you're being choked, not after the person is done choking you. And if I could read his writing correctly, what he was suggesting is that a good option in that situation is to pretend you have passed out. And so, like, go limp, pretend that, yes, you have passed out, so that the person lets go of you and you have a chance to get away. So he's like, yeah, fake passing out and then beat the shit out of them. But you're not going to, when the person lets go, then pass out. Okay, so those were Andy's fight notes. Let's check our cards. Do either one of us have a choke? I
No.
I am not seeing one either. So after all of that, neither of us even have a choke.
Why am I not surprised?
Curses! Curses! Okay. Hitting play. Those were Andy's fight notes. We are hitting play. Okay, so for those of you who are a little younger, what we're looking at here is a map. And this was a thing that we used prior to the existence of GPS and satellites. To tell us where we were. And if we couldn't figure out where we were based on the map, we would have to stop and ask for directions. So I have a little story here. I know I just hit play. I'm going to hit pause again. I have a little story that I tell myself about this. And Sam with his little dimples is looking very cute where I have just paused this. But my story in my head is that little Rebecca is younger. She's the younger sister. And so Sam and Zach were friends, and she had a crush on her brother's older friend, Sam. But he never thought of her as anything other than Zach's little sister. Um, and I think that you see it when they meet the first time and he calls her little Becky and she's like, "Oh, you got to stop that." When he, after the fight, when she runs in, the way that she's cradling his face, like she's got him in her lap and she's cradling his face. I think that's very sweet. And then here, this conversation they have at the end. And so she's asking about him and what he does and why he had to leave Stanford. She's asking about, did Jess know? And so I just have this vision in my brain of, her having this, like, this crush on her brother's best friend or friend. We don't know that they're best friends, but her older brother's friend. But he was dating Jess, and she had her little heart broken because she had a crush, but he only ever saw her as his friend's little sister. So this is the story that I tell myself about what we're seeing here. I'm hitting play, and Sam they've got this soft lighting on her, like this very kind of romantic lighting as he's talking to her. She's telling him, like, call me sometime. She gives him this big hug. As he lets her go, she, like, trails her hands down his arms. She almost holds his hands for a second. Like, there's she's got eyes for Sam, I think. And who could blame her? I mean, look at those dimples. How could you not? Um, so here comes Sam. they're saying, well, since they think Dean is their prime suspect, Zach has been released. They found the shifter's lair with evidence tying Dean to the crime. So they're going to let him out. Um, and now Dean is wanted by the police. This is a beautiful shot here. I don't know if this is a drone shot because so this is 2005. Drones were being used in TV and films at this time, but it would have been a very expensive shot. So I think that's just a really beautiful look of that aerial shot of the Impala driving through the field. We've got the two of them talking about how they're freaks. They're both freaks. And again, this is kind of a reoccurring theme in these early seasons. So we're going to see this again. I think we have to call this a heartfelt bromant. So we're going to pause in a moment and check our cards for a heartfelt bromant. And there goes the Impala
Yep.
down the road. That is the end of our episode. Let's check our cards, see if either one of us have a heartfelt bromant. You don't believe that I do. So you do. So cheers to you. And let's see where we landed. So the most I have in a row is two. Two.
Up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And I have seven. So I lost by ever so slightly less than you did. Well done. So tell me, what did you think about this episode? One thing you loved, one thing you hated.
Oh, there's so much to love about it. Like, I don't even know if I could narrow it down.
I'll toast to that.
Um, oh,
Pick one in no particular order. Pick one.
all right, I'm gonna go broad this time. Usually I pick a
Broad.
scene, but
What'd you call me?
I'm gonna pick a scene. Usually I'm gonna go very broad spectrum. The cinematography
Oh yeah.
I loved. I thought
Yes.
there were so many shots, lighting. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a lot of times the cinematography is very good. I thought they did an exceptionally good job
Yeah.
with this
Yeah, I
episode.
agree.
Um, just hands down, like, I think of all the episodes we've seen, I think the cinematography was just off the charts good.
Hmm. One thing you hated.
One thing I hated, it drove it drove me nuts when the one guy, and you know me and character names, I can never
Give
remember
me
them.
something.
I hate to say the Asian guy because I feel like that's very,
Alex.
Alex. I feel like that's very stereotypical. Stereotyping. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Um, when he's wandering around the house with the house is making noises and he's like just wandering around, like not calling 911, not doing anything. I'm like, oh, for the love of God, that's a B-rated horror film moment. And just,
Yeah.
it's such a, I understand they're making a point. It's
But
such, it's such a phenomenal episode. Can't you make the point without a B-rated horror film moment?
yeah, fair point. Absolutely. And I know we talked about that when it happened that, like, all right, you're going to leave your girlfriend tied to a chair or wife. I'm not sure what their relationship was. Um, you're going to leave her tied to a chair, walk around your house with no weapon when, you think that the person who abused her could still be in the house. Like, use your noggin, folks. If this ever happens to you, if you're ever tortured by a shapeshifter, Lock the door, put a chair under the knob, call 911. Don't walk around the house weaponless. No, I completely agree with you. For me, I think that this is the first truly excellent episode of the series. Like we've seen some great stuff before now. This one is full on excellent.
Yes.
Um, I really love, and I know I said this already, but I think Jensen just knocks it out of the park. Like this is again, the guy he's a talented guy. But this is the first episode where we really see like because we've seen him be a badass, we've seen him be funny. This is the first place where we see him be scary, and he's just terrifying. And it's it really I think gives him an opportunity to showcase his range, which
Yes.
I like. Um, the thing I hated the most, and I know I mentioned it already, is that like again when they catch up when the real Dean gets to the real Becky in the sewers, like the last time she saw him or someone that looked like him, he was beating on her with a fucking chain, and she's just like, oh, thank God you're here to rescue me. And when you see her, she's got like a tiny little bruise over her eye, she's got a tiny little cut on her lip. Like her injuries do not match what we saw. And I understand that, budgetary issues and whatnot, but like, I don't know, makeup is cheap. Like, I feel like they could have, well, comparatively cheap. I just feel like they could have done a little better with that.
That kind of reminds me of my pet peeve from the pilot. Is
Remind me.
the one thing I hated was the fact that the father came out of an engulfed flames
Yeah.
unscathed. It's like it takes a little bit of makeup to make him look like he walked out of a flame. And in this case, it takes a little bit of makeup to look like she's had the crap beat out of her. It's
Somebody
like,
beat the piss out of her. Yeah.
yeah, like it, or just take 2 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
To
I
make it-
agree. Well, that is our show. That is last call for today. Thanks so much for coming along for the ride. I do want to let you folks know that we are planning on doing a season wrap up episode. So if you have any questions that you would like us to address, or if you have anything that you would like us to talk about during that episode, send us an email at hunterfuelpodcast@gmail.com. Please also, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, like or subscribe, comment on the episode. Let us know what you think. And we always love hearing from our SPN family. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your friends' family about what we're doing here, and see if we can't get more people into the family. The more, the merrier. Our next episode that we will be watching is season 1, episode 7, Hook Man, when Sam and Dean give a young woman a hand with a vengeful spirit. Until then, be safe, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.